Hey Underdogs, welcome back to Underdogs Rise, the podcast where we rise together. I always used to think that what separated myself from so many people that I've met, especially growing up, was that we all had to be similar to create that connection. But what I'm learning and what I've discovered is it wasn't that at all. It was our differences grew us together. And that is what I want to explore with you today. We are often taught and told that similarity creates that connection. That we find our people because they think just like us, or look just like us, or believe in what we believe in, and walk the same road that we are walking on. But if we look honestly at our lives, the many of those most meaningful relationships tell us a different story. The friendships that deeply changed us, the mentors who guided us, the partners that we fell in love with, or the strangers that we met along the way that became our family. Because what first caught our attention was how different they were, how they chose to respond in environments where you would find, or I would find, triggering. Perhaps our differences weren't obstacles to connection, but they were invitations to go deeper. Think of a puzzle. If every piece looked exactly the same, nothing would fit. And it wouldn't fit together. That puzzle works because every single piece has a unique edge, unique shape, and that very thing that makes that one piece special is that it allows that connection with another. And we are very much the same as humans. A quiet person can teach someone who is loud to listen. A courageous person can help the fearful person take a step forward. Neither of those pieces is completely alone. And together they help create balance. And they strengthen it. You know, that we are surrounded by nature and it seems to understand this principle very well and better than what we do. Have you ever noticed when you walk through a forest that no two trees are exactly the same, or at different heights, different roots? Yet together they are able to create an ecosystem capable of surviving all the seasons. And that strength that is created in the forest is created from diversity. And the same is true for the communities that we are living in and that we are a part of. Our families, our friendships, our teams, our colleagues, our partnerships, our beliefs, and perhaps even humanity itself. Sometimes our beliefs do challenge us, and boy do they. And that challenge is uncomfortable. When someone sees the world differently to what you do, it does stretch our perspective. And when someone believes differently, they force us to examine our own assumptions. When someone has travelled roads we've never walked, they reveal to us realities that we have never thought of, and that we never knew that they actually existed. For such a long time I was quite averse to growth, because I was scared. I was scared of losing the parts of myself that I had become accustomed to having in my life. But real growth happens when we encounter something which is unfamiliar. The unexpected, the different. And that's not always easy. It can be extremely frustrating and confusing, but it can also be transformative. Because every single person alive carries their own world inside them. And every time that we truly listen, we are granted a visit to a place where we've never been before. Imagine this. Imagine how small our world becomes when we only seek reflections of ourselves. That every conversation that we have simply confirms what we already think. If every friend that we have mirrors our own experiences. If every relationship agrees with us. When that happens, we stop expanding. We stop learning. We don't discover anything new. And that is why the differences that we have is often the doorway to our growth. Not because our differences are superior, but when we look deeper, they reveal possibilities we couldn't see alone. This is something that I have recently become aware of, and I'd like to share this with you. I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that understanding requires our agreement, and it doesn't. That we can understand someone without sharing their opinion. You can still respect someone without living their life. You can still care for someone without seeing the world through their exact same lens. Real connection is built on curiosity. When we listen, when we share our humility, and our willingness to say, tell me more. When our curiosity replaces judgment, our differences can become bridges instead of walls. Many of us would have experienced moments where a person entered our lives from a completely different background, a different culture, a different age, with different experiences and different values. And somehow, despite those differences, a real connection emerged. Why? Because beneath every difference that lies between us, there is something deeper. And that is our shared humanity. We've all experienced joy. We all know loss. We all know uncertainty. And we all know hope. And we all know what it feels like to long for acceptance. To seek meaning in our lives, to wanting to belong to something bigger than ourselves. The details may be different from one another, but the one constant is our heart. And it is often through our differences that we connect and discover to something much deeper. Our common truth. Let's think about music for a moment. A single note on its own can be beautiful. But an entire song requires more notes. Different rhythms, different pitches, a different cadence. The highs and the lows. But the beauty of the song emerges from those interactions. And not their sameness. The richness that we seek comes from our differences. And the harmony that we are after comes from the diversity of life which is all around us. And perhaps our own relationships are no different. We are all notes in a much larger song. Our uniqueness isn't a flaw, it's a composition. And this is what makes our music possible. This doesn't mean that differences are always going to be easy. Sometimes they will create misunderstandings. And they can create conflict too. They get us a lot deeper, and yes, they expose our wounds and our fears. But difficulty doesn't automatically mean that something is wrong. Sometimes difficulty, something that is challenging, is the price of growth. You know, the bridge that we are trying to build between two different places does require effort to build that. Yet once it is built, we are able to move between both of those directions. As the effort to understand another person's experience may feel challenging, but the reward that we often get from that is wisdom, perspective, compassion, and connection. Perhaps the invitation for me today, and for you, is not to fear difference. Not to simply try and eliminate it, or to win against it. But to become curious about it. What can this person teach me? Because every single person that you meet knows something that you don't. Every person has survived something that you haven't. Every person carries lessons that simply reading a book cannot teach. Their differences, and the differences that we experience on a daily basis, are not the barriers to our growth. It may just be the very thing that accelerates it. Consider the people that have shaped you in your own life. The ones who challenged you. The ones that expanded your own horizons. The ones who showed you another way to see. And the ones who challenged you to think differently. There may have been a good chance that most of them were not just merely your mirror. They were an accompaniment to you. Their differences drew you closer. Their differences pushed you away. And maybe that is one of life's most beautiful paradoxes. That maybe we become more complete not by finding people who exactly fit like us, but by learning that those who are wonderfully, courageously, and beautifully different that is where our greatest amount of learning happens. Our differences drew us together. Not because we abandoned who we were, but maybe, just maybe, we allowed ourselves to discover who we could become. And that is discovery. We found something deeper than just agreement, and we found connection. Underdogs rise, and we rise together.